Los Angeles, and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, May 2nd. Happy May, everybody. It's gonna be May. Just wanted to get that out of the way. LA Galaxy getting ready to head on a road trip up to Seattle, a place they haven't won in quite some time. We're going to talk about that. They're going to do it without Ricky Puig. So are they Puig-Less in Seattle? Yes, they are. We're going to talk about all that fun stuff, including Martin Caceres, a little Gabriel Peck, some Ricky Puig, and a whole bunch of other things as we get you ready for Seattle. A bunch to talk about, a bunch to get to. In order to help us do all that, we're glad to have him back. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm in a good mood. I'm shook right now.
Yeah.
Lasso's Optimism already has sent me spinning in the chat. He's calling it a career in education. 29 years. Shout out to Lasso's Optimism.
Woo.
Always in the chat. Always helping out.
Yeah.
29 years in education. You know, that's something to be proud of. So shout out to Lasso's Optimism.
I always thought Lasso's Optimism was like 17 though, so that it's sort of thrown. I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I thought it was like
I was picturing the mustache. Yeah, I was picturing a seasoned veteran.
You had a statesman, is what you had.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but other than that, I'm good. Staying alive out here. The weather in Texas is something else. You never know. It's always keeping you on your toes.
We're doing pretty good here right now. We're kind of in that sweet spot. Of course, we did have an earthquake not too long. On what was it, yesterday? I think yesterday. 4.1 in Corona. It wasn't enough. Everybody just said earthquake, and then we went about working. It wasn't.
I do miss the earthquake social media posts, like earthquake, and then you just go back to your business like nothing happened. So fun times.
Yeah, it is. I'm also exhausted though. I have to point. I want to get this off my chest early. I'm exhausted. My kid is sick. He's fine. He's good. We're all there, but he's got the croup, which is never fun. And so he's been sleeping in like at most 3 hours. He got 3 hours of sleep last night. That was like in one stretch. So it sort of like takes me back to whenever he was born. And I was like, oh man, I did not miss that. I don't think I want to go back to that. I don't think I want to do that again.
That's good birth control. Yeah, you don't want to rip that Band-Aid off again. So fun times. But yeah, condolences to you all. Not condolences. I don't know. That's the wrong term. I feel for you.
Yes.
Just because, when you have a sick kid and you're just helpless, that's the worst feeling in the world. So hopefully, hoping for a speedy recovery and everything goes well. I'm also exhausted. We had a field trip today, a kid's birthday party at so it's just crazy times over here as well. It's the season, right? It's May. Right. It's crazy times. Field trip season.
Off the rails. Let's go off the rails right now. Everybody, chat room, and you, Eric. Best field trip you ever went to. Best field trip you ever, and as a student, not as a parent. Okay. So that's go ahead. I would love to hear yours if you have one off the top of your head. Well,
I have multiple because as a teacher, my best one was we actually went surfing. So it was like a beach day. So we went to out by Huntington Beach, and so they had the lifeguards come out, spend a day at the beach. They teach the kids how to surf. They teach them how to kayak. It's part of like the the Dare Drugs program. It's part of the sheriff deputy. It was that whole thing. But when you live in Southern California, you get to go to the beach and surf. So as a teacher, experiencing that through kids who, is funny enough, even though you live in Southern California, these were not kids who go to the beach every Sunday. So seeing them experience that was very cool as a teacher. As a student, It was ditch day at Six Flags.
Oh,
just when you're in high school, senior, you ditch. You're spending your day with your friends. At that age, you're perfect for the roller coasters and the fun time. That was
solid.
The glory days right there.
Yeah.
Right,
one is you said dare. And all I can remember is that early in elementary school, we had to do like presentations on Dare. Like you had to do a skit that would show how things went. And I, being obviously the rap loving person that I am, decided to do a rap.
Mr. Hip Hop. When we look at you, we can tell. Yeah.
That's right. And so, well, it wasn't my fault. The bear that we had for Dare was Harmony, and he was a rapping dude.
Okay.
So, obviously a little puppet that looked like that. So, drug abuse, resistance, education. That's what they say all across the nation. That's the only part I remember it, but I just wanted to get everybody in there.
Oh, that's good. What are we doing here? Why do we need to talk about soccer when we have all this lovely meat on the bone here?
We have a lot of stuff, but I do want to get to some of the answers in the chat room. And then I'm trying to think of what my best field trip ever was. I think it was a Six Flags field trip in high school. Yeah. If I remember correctly.
That's the right age, the right theme park. At that time, yeah.
Yeah. Let's get to some of them, though. Philip says the best field trip they ever had was McDonald's. Awesome. Good call. Get the nuggets and the Happy Meal.
Can't go wrong there, yeah.
Gary, the California Science Center. See, if you're close enough to that, I think you could do it. I remember going to the honey... Yeah,
that's a banger.
Is it? I haven't been there. I need to go. It's one of the. It's on my list. Let's see. Pirate Ship, I think. That was from Sauce Vader. It's Chris. Actually, I can relate. Hooters in college. Not wrong. Not wrong. Not they have great wings there. And I'm not. And that's not a lie. Let's see. Peterson Auto Museum was good. Long Beach, just straight up Long Beach. Just dropped it in. No, he was saying Pirate Ship in Long Beach. That was one of those. I think we went to Medieval Times on a field trip.
So another cool one. I actually had Medieval Times come to our school.
What?
So like the horses were on our campus, and they had
I seem to remember something like that.
That was epic.
Am I dreaming it?
Yeah. I remember that. We took our little chairs out to the field, and then the horses came out, and they like did the joust with that was crazy.
Okay.
I don't know how that skipped.
Right.
My mind, but it's all flooding back to me now. Queen Mary's out there.
Yeah, Queen Mary's there. Calico Ghost Town in the mid '70s from Lasso. I mean, Lasso now is starting to really show us their true color, right?
They're not 17 anymore. That's for sure. Yeah. Sixth grade camp is in there. Sixth grade camp is always
outdoor. Is that outdoor? Outdoor school?
Outdoor science camp.
Okay.
Lake Arrowhead is where we used to do it. I know there's a lot of different places, but that's a good one.
Yeah. I was gonna say there was always some good. I remember going to the Huntington Library and not really appreciating that, but now I would like to go back, and I think I should. So that's one of those. But Calico Ghost Town is a solid pull, actually. Solid pull. Which is, of course, where you get the Calico Mine Train at Knott's Berry Farm, which is one of the first dark rides ever in the history of amusement parks, and Walt Disney actually copied whenever he wanted to do his theme park. Thank you very much. All right. Good night, everybody. Have a good one.
That's it. We're good.
Let's talk about the LA Galaxy here. You know what? Every once in a while, I just want to be like off the rails. I just want to be like, hey, let's just talk and hang out.
Let's just have fun.
Yeah.
Let's just be dudes talking. We're just guys talking.
Philip goes, Josh, a Taylor Swift concert. Well, if I went there on a field trip, yeah.
I was going to say, what schools, but what's the educational twist on that one that you make that one work? I don't know how Medieval Times made the cut.
They were teaching. Hold on. Back to they were teaching you about the medieval times, right? It was more educational twist on medieval times, which wasn't just fun and fancy feast. The LA Galaxy were mentioned in this stat as Lionel Messi was named the MLS Player of the Month in April. The first one, of course, was Luis Suarez, who was the very first month going on here, and then you had Lionel Messi, who came in there. Now, only two other teams have had the first two of those awards go to the same person on the team. It's only two other teams. 2004 is the one we're focusing on. Carlos Ruiz and Alejandro Moreno. So Ali Moreno was with the LA Galaxy. The other one was in 2000, the Kansas City Wizards, with Molnar and Miola. What a classic pair that you got there. So that was something I wanted to top to, certainly for something we talked to. Now, Eric, go ahead.
I saw a conspiracy theory, if we want to get our foil hats on, since we're already off the rails, and I believe it. This is a conspiracy theory that I don't think is that wacky, is that the MLS scheduler gods had Miami play that opening game during the week,
right?
So they would always have a game in hand.
So they
would always appear at the top of the standings and with more stats. That doesn't sound that crazy. That feels like that's a conspiracy theory that's probably true.
I mean, it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah,
That's all
we're
I'm
seeing
saying.
it.
Yeah, yeah, we're seeing. We can see what's happening. Well, there was a major shift in Major League Soccer today. For the first time in Major League Soccer's history, they did something that people have been begging them for. Now, I'm a little upset because I feel like maybe they stepped on my toes and they didn't give me a heads up about this. But what MLS did was they released a roster and roster designations with contracts, contract end years, and contract options for every single player. Someone might even call it transparency. We'll call it a good start. But we have the LA Galaxy's roster profile set up here as of May 1st, 2024. And there are some things we need to discuss.
It's beautiful, right? It's charts, there's pictures, it's an MLS branding on it, and it has everything that we've been speculating about, and now it's just actually right there in black and white for us to see. So what a time to be alive.
Yeah, if I look correctly at the senior roster for the LA Galaxy, they're going to have 19 players, so 19 of 20 that they're allowed to have. There are some little check marks here that you're sort of like, oh, okay, what's sort of going on? But basically, looking at all the fun stuff, there's some things that we can determine. One is that freshly signed Emiro Garces, right? Carlos Emiro Garces is listed as a TAM player. Now, here's the fun part about that, is that whenever they announced the loan deal, they did not mention TAM. And I would suggest that the loan deal, there was no TAM involved in that. I believe that that's why it was a good deal, like sort of looking at that in the loan deal. Now, I don't know whether the Galaxy pulled the trigger right away or something. I don't know what wizardry is going on here, Eric. And it's important that I speculate in this way, is that I would imagine, based on the people who were involved in this deal, that there was some wizardry going on, right? There was some way to dodge something, to do something tricky, and they did it. They announced Carlos Emiro as a loan, and then, being he didn't show up a la Yoni Gonzalez there. He was the next Yoni, right? It was
Yoni
like
2.0.
Yeah, exactly.
But hopefully not.
No.
Onto the field play, yeah.
No, exactly. But as he was waiting, we found out the LA Galaxy actually pulled the trigger and bought him. So 5-year contract, exercised the purchase option on the contract, and so now I believe that would probably that's why it's listed as a TAM player on here. So we didn't know that, and so that was something interesting that we were able to pull from. Other than that, you go through and look at, on the right-hand side, you can look at the contract through year, and it's really interesting. The older players that you would expect pretty much are on those 2024 end of year roster. So Martin Caceres, 2024, end of contract. You have Mark Delgado, 2024, with an option in 2025. So don't freak out. That option's coming in. Brady Scott. Everybody's like, who's Brady Scott? He's the Galaxy's third goalkeeper. I literally had 3 people ask me who Brady Scott was. Galaxy's the third goalkeeper right now. 2024 is stop date there. But 2 options, 2025 and 2026. Maya Yoshida, 2024 in there. You have Aguirre in 2024, Lepley in 2024. But again, Lepley has 3 options after that. Jalen Neal, 2024 with an option for 2025. Gino Vivi, 2024, but 25 and 26 options. Eric Zavaleta, 2024. Marcus Furcranis, 2024. But with an option in 2025. So you sort of get to see where that is. You were pointing out, Eric, whenever we were starting this, that you said, look who's the longest contract. We'll point out the long contracts to everyone.
Yeah, the thing that stood out to me, and part of why I'm happy that this now exists as a document, is you get to see who the Galaxy are going to be holding on to long term. So when you look at that, the number that stands out to me with the most recent signing, Emiro Garces, is that he's contracted through 2028. So when you look at the rest of that roster, Gabriel Peck is also contracted through 2028. So those 2 could potentially be the longest tenured LA Galaxy players by the time you get to 2028, 4 years from now. So I think that was something that stood out to me, is that they really are, this Peck DP signing isn't just something that they're hoping pans out. This is a long-term move that they're going to be patient with and hope that he develops and really works through that 2028. The idea is, and we saw it with the Ricky Puig extension as well, you sign these players for a longer extension with the hope that you could sell them and make money off them, make a profit off them before then. So that's not to say that Garces and Peck are both going to be here in 2028. But it is to say that they're locked in and that they're their stock rises because of the length of that contract. It can work in the opposite. We've seen the Jorgen Schelviks of the world, come back and are we still paying that player? Is this still happening? And that's the concern. But with the direction that the Galaxy seem to have moved this season, I think that's the thing that stands out the most is whatever they saw in Garces, there's those promising signs there that he's something that's going to be a long-term project, or that they see the potential in now that can make a difference. And they see that same thing in Peck. And then not far behind, you see with Aude 2027,
right,
Paintsil 2027. So the core of who this team is extended for the next 3 to 4 seasons, which is exciting because they're starting to show those signs in the beginning of this season, but this is really a long project in the making. My famous line, don't peak too soon.
Right.
This team is built to peak in maybe a year, 2 years time.
The other thing that you sort of want to look at is the LA Galaxy on international slots, and we've been tracking this. They have 13, but they have 2 players who are unavailable because they're on loan. Those 2 players, Aaron Bibo, who's unavailable on loan, and of course Gino Vivi, who's unavailable on loan. Now, Vivi, I believe, was on the bench last weekend, right? And
that's a new development.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So while we can look at these things and say unavailable on loan means something, it doesn't necessarily mean completely unavailable, and I believe that there are certain situations where they can call them up, but it's a very limited number of call-ups, so you only get X number. So everybody's shouting for Bibo was sort of like, hey, maybe the Galaxy are holding on to that. Maybe, and also you have to have somebody who's an international be out in order for the Galaxy to be compliant on international slots whenever they move back up, right? So there's a lot of moving around that has to happen in the Galaxy with 13 internationals, but 11 on the roster is pretty interesting. The other part of that is designated players. They have over there on the right-hand side, and they said Joseph Paintsil, Gabriel Peck as a young DP, and then Ricky Puig as a DP. That the little carrot there, player cannot be converted from a designated player to a non-designated player by using target allocation money. That was not the case for Ricky Puig last year, right? And so, again...
And all 3 of our TPs have that carrot.
Right. Yeah, none of these can be converted, right? So these are all full DPs, and one of the reasons that I point that out is that there was some questions about Ricky Puig, and we've been saying since the beginning of this year that we were expecting that he would be a full DP, that his contract basically would be... This was before we even heard about the new contract, but that his contract basically would be paying close to $3 million, and now I imagine that's probably higher with the new contract as well. So full designated players, none of that is coming off. The only spot right now that I really see the LA Galaxy having any sort of openness to it is the U22 initiative players with Julian Aude and Dejan Joveljic, right? There's just 2 of the 3 that they're allowed to have. They're of course, if you're going to get somebody and they're going to be international, then you need an international slot as well. As you can see, a lot of those are filled up. Could go shopping and get another one, right? That type of thing. If you're going to do it, But I do think that with Garces showing the TAM player, moniker there, I do think the Galaxy are probably shorter on cash than everybody would like them to have in terms of space. So you could move pieces. You could buy out pieces. Somebody said the Galaxy were going to buy out Eric Zavaleta. I'm like, you're not going to use a buyout on $83,000. Yeah, 120. Yeah, 120K. Yeah. That's not happening, right? You just leave that go, and you bring them on. You leave Zavaleta where it is. No, that's not it. But somebody asked, could the Galaxy move pieces? Yeah, they could. They could move pieces around in order to get something else. I don't know what those pieces would be right now. We'd have to really stop and think. Maybe somebody like Daniel Aguirre could fetch you something, right? Because he's a guy who's sort of coming up on the end of a contract, and yes, you're using him, but you're not using him that much. And while I think he's a great addition, maybe somebody else would really like to use him, and so there's some value there. That might be a player who's on the edge. Look at the players who are on the edge. And I wouldn't say don't look at the young players like Johnny Perez, right? Like Perez isn't going anywhere. I don't think the Galaxy
that's
are going to
a long-term move.
Right. Right. So you'd have to sort of go and look through the roster and be like, all right, who sort of fits that and how does that go? Cuevas for me as a homegrown player isn't going anywhere. Jalen Neal as a homegrown player isn't going anywhere. So yeah, just that's huge. The real big thing about all this isn't that we get to talk about it. It's that it was actually released, and for every single roster it was released, and that was information given to us to be able to use. So that's a big step for me.
Yeah, and why we're not rejoicing and dancing in the street is there's still things that are unknown and uneasy. This isn't a complete picture, but it is a step in the right direction. I think to your point, what is the part that's missing from this that would make this a perfect roster profile would be the salary cap a little column with the salary cap. This is how much of the salary, even if it's just a bar graph, this is their limit. This is, this is what they're currently at right now. So this is where they're under the cap, or this is where they're paying whatever it is. I don't know. Is there an overage on the cap? I don't think there is. There's no luxury tax.
Technically, everybody's over the cap, but they use general allocation money to bring it down, right?
Okay, so above the cap, but here's our allocation money that we got from trading X player or Y player, and this is why our cap is, in a different color above what the regular cap is. I think if that existed, then that helps us put in our mind, okay, what type of player can you go in with that third U22 initiative to bring in? If you need to buy an international slot, I think that seems to be the way to go. You mentioned people shouting for Aaron Bebo, and I think after this past weekend,
I understand why. I get it.
We kind of see where it's going.
Yeah.
I didn't recap last week's game, but one of the things that I did have in my notes is, Miguel Berry, the haters, they said you couldn't do it. And you know what? They were correct. Great call by the haters. Shout out to the haters. So I think everyone kind of saw through 10 games, we've seen what we needed to see. And you see that is definitely the place of need for the Galaxy right now. We'll talk about goals and leaking goals and the things where there's going to be a point where it gets to we're not going to be able to talk ourselves, well, there's a mistake here, a mistake there. It's getting to a point where it's becoming a pattern, and you hope that seeing Neil back in the lineup and Garces getting in and getting some minutes, that's going to hopefully shore some things up. But I think the immediate need is that backup striker or, a primary striker, someone to give, Joveljic a run for his money. That could be, he's the one who came in that U22 and kind of made his bones off the bench and made a name for himself. Bring in another player just like that, and you can have the competition, have them play together. I think that's really the direction they're going. But right now we just don't know what is that. Is that a TAM player? Is that someone who's right under that? Is it because it's prorated? How can they make that fit to make it work? So it just opens the doors for a lot of questions, even though it does provide us a lot of answers. This is if you give a mouse a cookie, we've been asking for something like this, but now that you gave us this, give us more, give us that next piece to add on to it. So we'll see how this roster profile grows as they give us a little bit more information year by year.
Yeah, if you give it, like you said, give us a little bit. Now we want more, right? More and more. Tim, $5 super chat. Happy Thursday, Josh and Hammer. Does Neil get the starting position as soon as he's 100%? Who are the starting center backs in August? Thanks. G's up. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how this is going to play. I would assume that Maya Yoshida is one of your starting center backs. Mm-hmm. Like straight up, Maya Yoshida is it. I would imagine that everybody else is playing for that third spot, whether that's Neil, whether that's Caceres, whether that's Garces. I imagine they're playing for that third spot. Who are our starting center backs in August? I don't know. It kind of depends. I will tell you, after watching the game in Austin, getting somebody with speed on the field seems like that would be an objective. Jalen Neal came on with more speed than I think the Galaxy have whenever they don't have him on the field, and that calmed things down, but also the Galaxy were in full attack mode as well, so a lot easier to sort of do that. He didn't have to do too much defending in that second half. So seeing Neil come on is good. You're also talking about that you just went out and got one of the fastest defenders in all of Colombia, and so maybe perhaps you should play him more because, and I just watched some of his highlights before we came on here again. And I was like, okay, so good with the ball, good with body position, uses his speed and quickness to get into the proper positions for defending. Even when he's beat, he has the ability to claw it back. I'm like, there's a lot of AJ De La Garza in him in terms of that, only he's 6'1", right? So remember when we always used to say if AJ and Omar could be melded into one super defender, that
here he is.
There he is. Maybe the Galaxy have something there with Garces. But the answer is, Tim, I don't think we have any idea what that defense is going to look like in August and September.
That's no fun. That doesn't answer the question. I know. That doesn't fit the exercise. Here, I'll give you an answer, Tim. Here we go. I agree. Maya Yoshida as the captain. He's center back 1. He's going to be your starting center back.
He's got a sign on in his yard. CB1.
For the purpose of this exercise, we're going to turn injuries off. Injuries not being a thing. What happens? And I think Jalen Neal absolutely can be the second starting center back next to Maya Yoshida. Now, where I think that you have the controversy is depending on who you're playing. If you are playing against a team that maybe doesn't have as much speed or maybe has a little bit more of a lethal attack, I think maybe you do put in Caceres for the experience and for the grit that he has. So depending on who you're playing, I think it's Caceres 1B and Neil, Caceres 2A and then Neil 2B. You can make them interchangeable. And then I don't want to put Garces, come August, Who knows what it's going to be? I think that's where I'll give you the non-answer. It's too early to call where that's going to land. But I would say right now it's Yoshida and Neal for me when they're perfectly healthy. Those are your two. With Caceres, bring him in when you need that experience and to, lock things down if you bring him in as a second half sub, or depending on who your opponent is, when you need someone to really give you that extra oomph. I think that's where you bring Caceres in.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just thinking you went out to get a 6'1" defender with speed, and
he's going to play, yeah.
I mean, maybe the Galaxy go to more 3 in the back lineups, and that gets more center backs, play to your strengths. And if the Galaxy have 4 good center backs, then it's sort of like, okay, that makes some sense. So that's certainly one of those things. I saw somebody who was talking about Jalen Neal. I got James. Neal needs to be extended now because he can leave for free after next season. If I am correct, he is an option for 2025. So he's 2024 and 25. Yeah. And that's a team option, by the way.
I'd imagine they'd exercise it.
Yeah, they're going to. So, or maybe they do a new contract. You could do a new contract too. But regardless, I think he'll stay under control of the LA Galaxy. Irregardless. Thank you.
I know Aaron's walking around here somewhere.
He's always there. That's for sure. Yeah. One of the things we were talking about, Martin Caceres. Let's talk about Martin Caceres and his Instagram story. What's
happening here?
Martin.
Again, I'm go on a field trip. I don't follow Instagram stories. What happened to my man here?
So Martin Caceres, clearly in a hairnet at the hospital, and then what do you call those things?
It's a gown.
It's a gown. He's in the hospital gown. He's in a hospital bed. He's at least in a medical room of some sort. If you're trying to play
see the needle, medical disposal there.
Yeah. This is a medical grade facility somewhere in this world, right? We don't know where, all that stuff. But certainly it was. Let me tell you how not in this I am. I'm sort of like you. I was sort of out of it. Is that I looked at this and I saw this and I was like, oh man, I got to ask Greg Vanny about that today. I'm like, okay, cool. So I set my alarm for like 11 a.m. to make sure I'm on the call on time and doing all the stuff because it's not supposed to start till after 11, but like you never know. So I'm like, I'll just sign in early. So I put my little my AirPod in and I signed in Zoom call early and I sit there and I'm just working away, not paying any attention. So it's like 11:15, 11:30, about 11:40. I'm like, I should probably text somebody at the Galaxy and ask them when they're going to get done with training today. And so I texted and they're like, hey, and I'm like, hey, when are we going to get started with the call? I said, when is training going to be over today? And they're like, well, they're off today. And I'm like, well, then I'm thinking to myself, well, then how do we have a call in the whole day? And I'm like, oh, right. That's on Friday because the game's on Sunday. So yeah, I'm really match day -2. Yeah, I always got to figure that one out. So anyway, I didn't get to ask Greg Vanny about this. So then I was like, well, now I have to ask the Galaxy about it. So I did reach out to the LA Galaxy. It was just, I always find this funny though. It's like, I'm sure the Galaxy are like, could you just not have posted the picture? Like,
because now everyone's going to ask the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So super.
It's a great selfie. You got to give him that.
It is. I mean, the man has they were joking about it. Jawline. He's just a good looking guy. I'm sorry. Yeah. I wish I could look like that dude.
Yeah. It's funny. If you have kids of a certain age, this will make sense to you, but he looks like the Giga Chad meme. So if you have kids or if you work, if you know what that is, like that's the Martin Caceres face is the Giga Chad. Like
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
This one's all
look
you.
It up, Google it.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's just, it's funny when people were saying jawline. I was like, okay, I see it. I get where they're coming from.
Yeah. So anyway, I was able to talk, and the Galaxy basically let me know that Martin underwent a pain relieving. I want to say it correctly.
I was going to say you're drawing it out. The suspense is killing me here.
A pain relieving epidural. All right. Okay. Now, if you remember, Greg Vanny was talking about Martin. If you listen to him in the post games and everything, he says that he's dealing with something, like whether it's a nerve thing, like there's pain there, but there's no injury, right? Like they're saying like there's no injury and it should be fine, but he's still dealing with pain and he feels it. And so I would imagine this is addressing that. Basically, they're trying to block the nerve that is causing the problem, and all that fun stuff. So I would say, and this is speculation on my part because the Galaxy certainly wouldn't want to elaborate on whether he's available or not available, and I would understand that. I would say that if this is effective, and they have training tomorrow, if this is effective and he's playing and he's feeling good, that he is definitely available for the game, right? This is not something that would exclude him from availability, more that if it didn't work, then perhaps there could be an availability issue. But as of right now, I would expect that it does work and that he's available to play.
I'm going to do everyone's favorite thing, drink, when we compare ourselves to professional athletes. I've actually had this procedure done. the pain relieving epidural. I have nerve issues with my sciatic nerve and with my back and different things.
So sciatica. Sorry, go ahead.
So the timeline kind of, it's one. Thank goodness that it's not a serious injury, that it's not surgery, that they were, he's going to be on the shelf for 3 to 6 months or whatever it is. That's the thing that scared me that I thought was coming. He had surgery to repair a ligament or something.
Scope, right? That's a scope-looking hospital gown.
That's not good.
Yeah.
But again, going through this, of course, it makes sense that it's basically you prep like you're doing for surgery when you get this type of injection. But the timeline, I think, works out that the day of, you don't feel too great, but 2 to 3 days later, you're ready to take on the world. So this tells me you're going to see Martin Caceres starting on Sunday. If he's getting the epidural, today, then he's going to be ready to go and ready to rock on Sunday. So I think you're reading between the lines that you're kind of seeing a starting lineup situation come Sunday.
Well, and my other thing is that perhaps you don't need him to start now that Jalen Neal is capable of going 45. You would imagine he can probably go 60 in the game, maybe 60 plus, right?
Yeah, or you can flip it 45 and 45.
Right.
You don't want to push him too hard. He just had a procedure done. Yeah.
Right. The whole deal. So I think that there are options there for the LA Galaxy. So I think they were sans options before. Now they have options. The other option they might have, Eric, as we progress through the LA Galaxy news, and I will tell you officially, Emiro Garces is officially on site with the LA Galaxy. The club wasn't training today, so we expect that maybe you'll see him tomorrow actually on the training field and doing stuff. People asked how soon he could be available. If he's in country, I would imagine he's available. So but are you going to select him for this weekend? Probably not. In my general, he's probably not
on turf. Never played with the team. Yeah,
exactly. Give him now next weekend against RSL. Yes, he's absolutely available for selection. Right, like it's 100%. That now you're in. He posted a picture today of him basically arriving at the LA Galaxy offices and taking a picture and being all there. So he is officially with the team. Our long Yanni Gonzalez nightmare is now over. People were asking, they're like, "Is he the next Yanni?" And I was joking around with some of the people. I'm like, Yanni is like a pole now. Like that's not like you have had to have been a fan at a certain time in order to pull Yanni Gonzalez. Like if you're waiting for something and it's taking forever, it's like, what am I getting Yanni Gonzalez down here? What's going on? You verbed it. I can say that to my wife. She just stares at me.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, that's a very specific time frame. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this pans out, especially after the question that we got from Tim on who our starting center backs going to be. After planting my flag on Jalen Neal and Yoshida, it just rings in my head. Why would you spend the money and sign this guy for a long term if you have no plans on making him part of your starting lineup? So I think that is something to keep our eye on where he's going to end up landing.
I think that Caceres, just with all the injuries he's had so far this year, I think already maybe the time's. By the way, love the dude, but like the clock is ticking. Like he cannot play every game. We know that now. Like maybe you spot start him as you indicated, right? You can sort of figure out when you want to play him. Maybe you bring him into games at the end of the game and help close things out, and you put in 3-4 center backs in the back. Jam that box full of CBs, and so you can do that. It's just. It seems like maybe, as they all say, Father Time, undefeated, right?
Undefeated. It reminds me a lot of Chicharito from last season or even 2 seasons ago, that as much as we like the guy and we want him to succeed, that it's just, time may be up. There's a reason why he's not on the contract through 2028. And that was always the case. The funny thing is, when he first came in, I believe it was 2 seasons ago, we thought he was going to hang up the boots 2 seasons ago, and he gave us a season last year. And to me, I've liked what I've seen this season. There's been flaws and there's been mistakes, but at the same time, what you're getting when Caceres is on the field. And I think there's an element. If there's an element that this Galaxy team is lacking, it's that muscle, it's that grit, it's that dog, the X dog, and Caceres has a 10 rating on that. So I think that's when you're looking for that type of experience and that type of that X factor that maybe isn't always on the stat sheet. I like what he brings to the team. So I'm excited to see what it is, but I do agree that this all the writing on the wall that this is the farewell tour for Caceres on the LA Galaxy.
It certainly seems that way. Now to clean everything up for the remainder of the news. Big news, and I don't know if you were part of the vote or not, but here you go. The LA Galaxy nominees for April Player of the Month was on Twitter. It was out there. Joseph Painsil, 59% of the vote on Twitter, 652 total votes, which, by the way, is low for me. I don't know what you guys not voting on stuff. You just decided that that's not cooler anymore. So obviously, by these standings, right? Joseph Painsil at 59%, Ricky Puig at 25%, Julian Aude at 6.4%, Gabriel Peck at 8.9%. And I think you and I, Eric, talked beforehand. Joseph Painsil clearly the winner. So,
yeah, our eyes tell us that he was the winner.
It wasn't even a race. Whenever you think about it, but that means congratulations, as the LA Galaxy officially announced. Gabriel Peck. Gabriel Peck is your player of the month.
What's happening here? Is Giovanni Dos Santos running the polls here? What's happening?
This is what it feels like. No. I imagine that there was also Instagram votes going on. So basically what Instagram is saying is that they watch a different game than all the people who are on Twitter. We've known this for a while, that there are Instagram people and there are Twitter people. And
they are not the same people.
They are not the same people, right? It's like Face Group and Reddit. They are not the same people. Well, most of them are the same people. Mm-hmm. But you know what I'm saying is that these are different groups of people. So Twitter thinks that Joseph Painsil was the player of the month. And then they think that Gabriel Peck, by the way, was the third best player in that month. And then Instagram thinks that Gabriel Peck is the best of everybody. And I just is it just that like were all the Brazilians stuffing the ballot box on Instagram?
Okay, yes. I'm going to say controversial opinion here. I think I'm going to have the metrics checked, but the Galaxy may have more followers on Instagram than Twitter.
Chat, so get on it, chat.
When you're talking about the amount of votes, we saw it, 600 something votes. Mm-hmm. If there were far more votes on Instagram, then that's going to outweigh it. That's point number one. Point number two.
Stop the count. Yes.
Gabriel Peck is just like a nice boy, a nice guy. He's pleasing on Instagram. He's reading his Bible. He's spending time with his new wife. Like, they're just adorable. It's the cutest thing in the world. And so, of course, he's going to get all the votes. He's going to get all the hearts, all the likes, all the love. So, to me, Painsil has a little bit more of that edge, and he has, you see it on the field. He brings a little bit more aggression to him. And so I think that's not Instagram. That's on Twitter. That's X. I'm angry. I'm going to go for it. Right. I'm going to go for the goals. And on Instagram, it's, I'm going to put the filter on. Right. I'm going to pray. We're going to do our things. And I think that suits more Gabriel Peck's lifestyle. So that to me feels like that's why he won, the poll. Right. Based on the Instagram results. Again, I'm just a guy.
Julio says no one uses Twitter anymore. That's not true. My posts reach 15, 18,000 people on occasion.
So that's where I have the biggest audience. So I hope it's not dead.
Yeah, no, please don't. Please. I mean, Elon's really trying to kill it, and I see it. I'm not pretending like I'm not gonna see it, but I see it. I see what's going on. But anyway, that's one of those things we have to talk about. The other thing, and I didn't get a chance to grab stuff, is they've been hyping up the Jalen Neal bobblehead, right? So pumped about that. They also have a Maya Yoshida bobblehead that I was really excited about until I saw it, and then I was like, "Wait a minute, does that look like Maya Yoshida?"
Are we gonna? All right, we're gonna say it. I didn't know if I saw the same thing you saw. The jersey looks like it's the swap meet version, but then I think, well, is it because he's Japanese? Is that supposed to be like a Japan style kit? Like they did the inverse. Okay, talk about the inverse sash and then
kimono, and then
it looks like AI did it. I'll just say that.
Okay, I just. So now somebody said on Twitter, and I started cracking up. They're like, y'all going to have to show me that Jalen Neal bobblehead before I go ahead and buy stuff. Right?
They have shown it. The Jalen Neal, I believe they've shown the preview, and it does look. Okay. That looks, the likeness is more alike to Jalen Neal than the Yoshida.
Okay.
Likeness.
I'm just saying. I know bobbleheads are not perfect. And as a matter of fact, they're probably better when they're bad. I
agree with that. I agree with that take. When they're a little bit off, you're like, then that's when or when you're, I used to have, again, shout out to all my Ecuadorians out there, Aguinaga bobblehead that I got at the 99-cent store, and it just had a ponytail, and it was like,
was the ponytail like real? Was it real hair ponytail?
So the guy in Ecuador jersey with who he played in Liga MX, and with it just was a hideous bobblehead, but I loved it because I got it for 99 cents, right? And it just looked a little bit off, and that was the magic to it. So there is something there that when they look a little bit off, that gives it a little extra flavor.
RIP 99-cent store. I would say the Omar Gonzalez one they did so long ago that came with like his own locker. He had a little locker, and then you could put the little shoes in it and stuff like that. Looked like Omar was perhaps like not shaving ever. It was just like random non-shaving and stuff like that. Yeah.
I do have a Zlatan. I don't know if it's a bobblehead, but it's the little figurine. Remember, I think it broke during our COVID shows. I dropped it, and then ended up breaking.
Yeah.
But his nose takes up about 96% of the statue, and it's just that's the beauty of it.
Okay, good. Just to get you through the standings once again, Miami and Cincinnati over there. You know what? I didn't even update these because Seattle actually had a win, and they beat.
Right.
That was a Tuesday night game. We'll talk about that a little bit. So pay no attention to these standings except the LA Galaxy.
Tuesday. I heard your shout out on Monday, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was. Yeah. Oh, well, which one was that?
Went right over Baxter's head. The special teams, special plays.
Special players.
Yeah.
The other thing, Baxter was like, what? Does he not TikTok at all?
He's
like
not on the internet.
Like zero internet. Okay, just checking. He couldn't even get his camera to work, so it just doesn't surprise you. You can talk, by the way, as much smack as you want about him. He never listens to the show.
He's not going to listen.
No, there's zero chance. So
I did look up the picture. I am taller than both him and Landon Donovan, so just throwing that out there.
It's obvious to anybody who has eyes. So definitely one of those things. But no, just looking at everything and how everything sits out, the LA Galaxy have a chance again to sort of climb back up that ladder, get back up on top, do all the things that they need to do. Mike, by the way, gives us $5 super chat. What's up, guys? I love the show. Thank you. With all of the new teams coming to California, San Diego and Sacramento, do we see a Cali Cup coming? Yeah, of course. The Cali Cup to me seemed obvious, right?
And I think Sacramento, I don't think that's
not official.
Off.
It's not. Well, it's not official. I think they still would like to have a team in Sacramento, but they need the money, right? The money has to be there. But San Diego's there, so you're going to have San Jose. You're going to have LAFC.
The two LAs.
Yeah. You have the LAFC and LA Galaxy, and you have San Diego in there. That's going to be a pretty fun little competition, I think, for a while, right?
I think when LAFC first joined the league, they tried to do something similar and never got off the ground,
it's there
which
now.
Is a shame because it's supporter groups based or so there was something into it. But I think with 4 teams, there's enough. I know out here in Texas, they do Copa Tejas with, Austin, Houston, and Dallas. It's really a shame. If you have the California teams, you need to make some type of Cali Cup.
They have the Cascadia Cup, Cascadia up there.
It needs to be a thing.
Yeah. So, and I think it should be. I think it should be official. And I think eventually Sacramento probably makes it like in the next 5-6 years. And then you have 5 teams in California. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. By the way, if you go up and down the East Coast, you could easily have more than 5 teams in California. But it's like whenever you compare the two, we always have to remember that. But that's something to sort of look at. So yeah, Mike, I'm a fan of it. Actually, I think it would be fun. I don't like to do it just between 2 teams where they have like a cup, like and play for like Houston and Dallas play for the Cannon, right? You have RSL and Colorado that play for the Rocky Mountain Cup, right? That's one.
No fun.
Yeah, you need like 3 or 4 or 5. You need
at least 3 minimum.
Yeah, so 4 to me works, and I think it's gonna be fun. I can't wait for the trips down to San Diego. By the way, I am in.
That'll be fun.
That's gonna be a good time. We can ride the train. Who wants to come with me? We can ride the train. It'll be a good time. Adam, by the way, says Yoshida's bobblehead does not look like him. So I agree with that. Adam, thanks for the super chat. Adam's always hanging out with us, so always nice. All right.
Back to the standings. Can I mention something on that before we move on?
Mm-hmm.
If the top of the standings did not change, and I think that's my big takeaway from the weekend. As much as the Galaxy had an off game, these things happen in a 34 game season. You're not gonna go 10 out of 10 every single game, and so when you play a poor game and you lose the points, 1, it's away, so you didn't lose the points at home, and 2, it didn't really, technically you dropped to number 2 on the standings, but you're even on points. And I think when you compare it and you say, okay, we're even on points, we didn't drop, you're still right there in the mix. A win, this weekend or points this weekend, and you're still right back in the mix. So to me, that was the big thing. When you lose and then people jump you, and then that's where things get a little bit murky. But if you lose and you still are tied on points, at least, or still in the mix towards the top, I think that's a good thing. So that's my positive spin on the loss from last weekend.
Absolutely. Scott, by the way, asked, is it running yet in terms of the train? I would imagine maybe one of those. The train was not running down to San Diego at one point because they had the landslides in San Juan Capistrano. Yeah, it's been a whole thing. They're like talking about spending $1 billion to like tunnel underneath like San Juan Capistrano, so that way the train doesn't have to go through that little tiny like corridor right up against the coast anymore. So yes.
Yeah, back when I lived in Buena Park, I lived right next to the Metro Link, which would go to Capistrano, and you can go to all the way down towards San Diego. So again, it's a fun ride.
Yeah,
it's a good
it
time.
is.
So
it is.
They can make that work. It'll be good.
Let's see. The Galaxy schedule. We've talked about this. There are 6 games here in May for the LA Galaxy, starting with Seattle, then home to Real Salt Lake. That's where we'll see everybody on May 11th. And then it's going to be Minnesota, away to Charlotte. Yikes. And then LA Galaxy home to Houston and Dallas at the end. Again, the away games don't seem to be like going away.
Yeah, it's supposed to turn. Are we going to have a home stretch? Are these last games?
Like 7 games at home? Because it feels like...
take a look at this.
Yeah, it feels like it's been forever. So anyway, the Galaxy will be coming back home against Real Salt Lake. That'll be one to watch. So pay attention to that. And as a matter of fact, I think we can talk about it. May 11th, you get LED light up foam sticks. Those are the thunder sticks that don't thunder, but they're foam sticks. My son loves them, so we're in. To the first 10,000 fans, really excited about that. Ricky Puig playing in the water. That was probably the Seattle game with how much water there was on the field there. So that one will be happening. So make sure you're out there for that May 11th game. And then we go into June, 5 games in June, away to Chicago, home to Kansas City, home to New York City, away to RSL, away to San Jose. San Jose 3 times. San Jose 3 times before the end of June. Just would like to point that out.
In Seattle for the second time.
Yes.
We've only a third of the way into the season. You played San Jose twice and now Seattle twice. So again, I know weird. It's unbalanced, but there's got to be a better way to do this, right?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know anymore. I mean, there's all these blackout dates that go into this. There's probably like a computer and an algorithm, and like you can't have teams like more than like 3 games at home, except you had Vancouver had like 17 home games to start the season or whatever it was. So
there's the consider. It always reminds me with like the Grammys. When the Grammys are in town, then the Lakers do the Grammy road trip. So I'm sure there's something like that goes into it, but it does feel a little bit unbalanced. And the funny thing about it is, teams are so different in the beginning of the season than at the end of the season. So, we're catching Seattle at a good time where maybe they're not at their full confidence. And so you're going to possibly walk away with more points there. But then if they're humming at the end of the season, you didn't have to play them when they were humming. So that's the weird thing about having the unbalanced schedule, because you want to play them, at the beginning of the season with how they look. And then when they're more complete, you want to make sure that it's, equal all the way across the board. So it's just kind of a weird situation.
Charlie with a $2 super chat. Can we still target another striker on a TAM deal? Possibly. Don't know what the TAM reserve is,
for.
and so
TAM-ish.
you don't know. You don't know how much TAM they used on Garces. Like, there's a lot of questions that we don't have the answer to, but I think that we might get some answers to a little bit closer to the transfer window opening and the Galaxy sort of making those summer moves. So we'll keep and pay attention to that. Let's talk about the game coming up. LA Galaxy headed up to Seattle. 3:45 p.m. is your TV start time. 3:55 p.m. is your official kickoff time. Seattle's 2-5-3. LA Galaxy 5-2-3. Isn't that fun how it just goes around? It's like they're like mirrors of each other. If you were wondering about this overall, Seattle was 17 wins. LA Galaxy was 17 wins, 13 draws. So everything's all tied up, boys and girls. The last time these two teams played, the LA Galaxy got a win over Seattle. That was 3/30/2024. So a little bit earlier. That was in the rain. That was the slow game. That was just, it was sort of one of those you just survive. The Galaxy, I believe, only shut out.
The Galaxy came out firing and looked like they were going to score a bunch of goals, and then it looked like they held on for dear life towards the end, where Seattle couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So 1-0 win was last time. Here's the really interesting thing, and we've already joked about this, I think, enough, but the last time the LA Galaxy won in Seattle was on July 9th, 2016. That's right, 2016 was the last time the LA Galaxy won a game in Seattle. In that game, Robbie Keane scored in the 15th minute, and the Galaxy won 1-0. Maybe a similar feat is necessary in order to go ahead and pull ahead in this Seattle game as well, and then add to it that Seattle may not have been playing very well. And if you go and look at sort of their schedule, you can say, man, they really haven't been playing well. But what did they do on Tuesday night against Philadelphia? In Philadelphia, they beat them 3-2. And they did that with a whole bunch of goals up front.
I was going to say, they were up 3-0
they were up 3-0
at one point during that game. Yeah.
Yep, they were up 3-0 in that game, and then ended up winning that game 3-2. But it was squeaky bum time for a large portion of that game. I actually got to watch a little bit of the end of that game. It's amazing what happens, MLS and Apple, whenever you put a game on all by itself in like the middle of the week and stuff, people might actually watch it. I'm just saying there should probably be like maybe a Friday night game or a Thursday night game. Remember when there was Thursday night football?
I remember Friday night. Friday night was like the opening of the slate, and that was I enjoyed Friday night football.
Just give me one game to watch, and I will watch it. you could put them all on at the same time, I will have to like watch pieces of all of them, right? So that's what you see whenever you have this Seattle game in here. Now, we talked a little bit about this game, but the interesting thing, and we have two things to talk about. We have to go to the MLS disciplinary committee. Let's talk about it.
There's a lot of drama surrounding this, especially with that Philadelphia game.
Yeah, so the MLS disciplinary committee has suspended Seattle Sounders FC defender Alex Roldan for one additional match, 2 matches total, and fined Roldan an undisclosed amount for serious foul play in the 74th minute of Seattle's match against Vancouver Whitecaps on April 20th. Blah, blah, blah. The play was rooted. Roldan served his red card suspension during Seattle's match on April 27th against DC United, and the additional match suspension will be served during Seattle's match on May 5th against the LA Galaxy. Roldan, however, will be and was available for Seattle's rescheduled match against Philadelphia Union on April 30th. Remember when it rained so hard they couldn't play in Philadelphia, and so they rescheduled that match, and so that's why it was Tuesday night. That's why Alex Roldan was able to play, is because it was a rescheduled match. And so for this particular game coming up, the LA Galaxy will not have to deal with Alex Roldan. Now, interesting, because obviously a big part of their defense and how they like to play, and obviously playing around and near his brother as well is always a fun one to watch. So if we look at the lineup that we saw against Philadelphia on Tuesday night, you can see that Alex Roldan was indeed over there on the right-hand side. So Alex Roldan, that's where he plays. Now, what we can do is we can actually go to their loss against DC United, where Stefan Frei got red carded in the game, and we can see that they actually moved Christian Roldan over to that right-back role, and they allowed others like Rusnak and Joao Paulo and Atencio and Leo Chu and all that. They allowed them to sort of fill in. So if Alex Roldan is not there, you can expect a lineup similar to this with Christian Roldan, Yamar, Bell, and Baker on that back line, right? So that seems like that's more likely.
I was going to say, you got to respect Seattle's commitment to putting a Roldan on right back.
Right.
They're like, running out of Roldans, but fortunately, the Galaxy is in town and has an extra Roldan to lean if they need another one. Christian Roldan goes out, you got another Roldan ready to go in right back. So that's the beauty of this
Caesar
weekend.
Roldan, if I remember correctly.
Caesar Roldan. Yep. Yeah, he's an athletic trainer for the LA Galaxy.
Out on the field all the time. Sees the field a lot.
Time.
So, but it's always nice whenever the brothers can meet up and all that fun stuff. So, so that's what I would expect in terms of how that plays. Now, if you watch the game a little bit against Philadelphia, you saw a Seattle team that was very much strike and defend, right? And so I would imagine you could see something similar, but they're at home as well. And so that doesn't really mean much when you talk about a team that's only had 2 wins and they haven't played well in Seattle. But is this an awakening? Are we starting to find something from them? Because certainly against Philadelphia, they look like the more dangerous team. They look like the team that was the better team. And Philadelphia's been hit or miss this year, but generally more hit than miss, right? So
they have the talent there.
Yeah. So I don't know how to really sort of gauge Seattle right now. I think now they're more unknown than they were, like if they haven't played on Tuesday. There's also the Tuesday factor in there. There's enough days in between that you would expect that they're probably going to be fine and that there's not too much, and they're at home. So I don't know that I would take it, but Tuesday's a weird day to play a game.
And another wrinkle to this is that they have a U.S. Open Cup game on Wednesday of the following week. So again, we're going to start running into these Wednesday games in May. And so they played a Tuesday game. They have the Sunday game against the Galaxy, and then they have another game on Wednesday. So when you talk about how are they preparing for that, are they going to go with a younger, more academy-style lineup for the Open Cup? Then maybe you're going to see the majority of their starters here, or are they going to consider, maybe getting some players minutes off the bench, or managing the minutes of the players who get there. So I think that's going to be an interesting wrinkle to see how they plan moving forward into it. The one thing I don't know if you mentioned it was Stefan Frei's red card also in that DC United game. So while Alex Roldan, because of the reschedule, he got to play on Tuesday, but will not play against the Galaxy. But Frei, we thought, hey, we're going to be on the second choice goalkeeper, but there's news on that as well.
Independent review panel approves Seattle Sounders FC's appeals of Stefan Frei's red card. Basically, the independent review panel consisting of 1 representative from U.S. Soccer, 1 representative from Canadian Soccer, and 1 independent representative nominated by professional referees organization has unanimously rescinded the 1-game suspension and accompanying fine for the red card issued to Seattle Sounders FC goalkeeper Stefan Frei in the 28th minute of Seattle's match against DC United. So Frei is eligible for tonight's game against Philadelphia, whenever they say, and now will be eligible to play against the LA Galaxy on May 5th. So that one got somebody, by the way, in the chat room was asking how they got it overturned. Basically, if that panel decides that it's not a foul, and this happened with Mark Delgado's, remember? Mark Delgado got his second yellow, which turned into a red, rescinded. And so this is basically that same process. They went through and said, no, that shouldn't have been a red card, which is unfortunate because you would rather, it was in the 28th minute. So you played the rest of that game 70 plus minutes without having your starting goalkeeper and down a man for a red card that shouldn't have been. I mean, just it's, again, VAR is supposed to solve some of this stuff, and it's baffling sometimes whenever they get this wrong that they're like, yeah, you guys are wrong. I don't know where you guys are coming from. So Stephen Fry available to play against the LA Galaxy, which is what it is. I don't know what else you want. You gotta play the team that's there, right?
Yeah, and I think you saw how they did against Seattle at home. You're going to, if you're Galaxy, how they struggled against Austin, if they're going to win these games and show that they're the killer team that they claim to be, you can't be fearful and hoping that you're getting injured players or hoping that you're going to get players on suspension. No, you should be able to handle these teams at their best if you want to be considered a serious contender.
So I'm looking at their home games, and you go, okay, 0-0 to Austin, okay, 1-1 to Colorado, okay, that's fine. Then you go, and they go, 5-0 win over Montreal. That was a pretty big one,
it's
right?
It's an outlier, yeah.
Yeah, and then a 2-0 loss to Vancouver, right, in Cascadia, and that's it. Those are the home games. So I don't know that you can see a pattern there, except that they have probably played better than they did on the road, right? Like they are playing better at home than they are on the road. That being said, coming off a 3-2, sort of a reaction game for them, and they go to Philadelphia and get the win. It's Major League Soccer. It causes more questions than it answers for me. I'm like, I have no idea what Seattle is all of a sudden, because you always expect them to be better than they were, but I still don't know that they've solved any of the big structural issues that they have, right?
And where they're landing on the standings, where they remind me a lot of the 2023 LA Galaxy, where you look at the players on the field, you look at the roster, and you say, this team should not be, 13th place towards the bottom of the conference, and yet somehow they end up there. That's what I do when I look at the Seattle team. I say, we see Rui Diaz, he's still a menace in front of the goal. Roldan, we mentioned it, and Morris, they can still cause problems. They have Rusnak coming off the bench, and so I think this team should not be towards the bottom of the table, and yet there they are. So that's kind of what they remind me of, which could be a good sign for the 2024 LA Galaxy, who are going in and having a team that is just kind of a little bit lost in their identity right now.
Yeah, it's a goofy one for sure. The other part about this, and we talked about it at the beginning of the show, really is that the Galaxy will be without Ricky Puig. No Ricky Puig for the first time this year. It's the first game that he misses, but he has his yellow card accumulation. He has to do that. I think the Galaxy are well suited to replace him right now. I'm not saying you're going to get the same, but I think putting Brugman in there and putting Delgado in there and putting Cerrillo in there for me is like, okay, that's a no-brainer.
Those are your
right?
three.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was going to say, I've seen the shouts to get Fagundez in there to play more of the number 10 role, because there's that flexibility that he could play it. But I think in terms of the options coming off the wing, you want him as an option off the wing more than you want him playing centrally. So I think you do mess with it less. Cerrillo, who's someone who's seen a lot of minutes so far this season, you plug him in,
right.
Ask him to do what he's always been doing, and then maybe ask Delgado and Brugman to play a little bit more offensively to kind of make up for whatever they're going to be missing from Ricky. And I think with the assists that Delgado has given, and Brugman, what he's shown when he wants to move forward, what he can do, I think they're going to miss Ricky, but I also think they can get the job done. You can kind of piecemeal it with your Kirkland brand Ricky Puig, with Brugman, Delgado, and Cerrillo.
I think for me, the question now is about Joveljic and whether or not he's able to play now on turf, and he's already had a thigh/hip issue, whatever that is. As Greg Vanny says, the hip bone's connected to the thigh bone. Whenever you look at that, and you sit there and say, okay, these are the options that you have at striker. There's a chance for me that Miguel Berry doesn't start this game, and that the LA Galaxy go in with somebody like maybe a Diego Fagundez in that starting spot, and leave everybody else. Again, I'm very much, I think Greg Vanny and I think in a similar way whenever it comes to injuries. I'm not saying that's not a compliment to Greg. It's not a compliment to me. I'm not trying to do anything. But what I'm saying is, change as little as possible when you're trying to do stuff, right? So you're just moving Brugman into Puig's role. That's an easy fit and easy slot. Delgado's basically playing the same role that he always does, and then you have Cerrillo coming in who's going to play the 6 because they play a little differently whenever Cerrillo's in there. Allow him to be more of a box to box, or more of a 6 and more of a defensive midfielder, right? So you have that. Well, then why not have Peck on the outside? Why not have Paintsel on the outside? And why not start Diego Fagundez in the center? If you want to, by the way, you could move Peck or you can move Paintsel into the center and move Diego Fagundez out wide as well. There are options, and maybe you do all of that and you let them
all
go
three
like
of them.
this. Yeah,
I think you have Peck, plays a forward at times. Paintsel is a forward at times. Fagundez is a forward at times. I really like that, and I think a player that stands out to me is Nuhu. He's someone who was an absolute beast the last time that they played at Dignity Health Sports Park. So I think you want to avoid that. And with Alex Roldan out, and we've seen Vanny, take the opportunities to overload one side. I think if you stay away from Nuhu's side and you overload the right back side of Seattle with Peck, with Fagundez, with Paintsel, and you just have a bunch of wingers bombing on that side, making it happen, then I think you have the chance to open up opportunities to get some goals. So I think it's there. I like the idea of having Fagundez as your striker if Joveljic is not available, because we don't need to keep beating the Miguel Berry horse, but I think it's time to just start figuring out other options.
I think that you have the ability. The problem with that is that who do you bring off the bench whenever right? Johnny Perez becomes more important, I think.
Yes, for the wing position, and then you could still bring Berry in off the bench towards the end to do what he does, right. Hold up play or whatever it is that you're going to make him do. But I think if you want to go in and make an impact, I think he's not the guy to start to make a difference on the field.
One of the things that Edgar over at the News Across the Galaxy, the NAG guys are over there, he put together a sort of a profile on referee Drew Fisher, who's going to be in charge of this match. And let's just say it's not pretty for the LA Galaxy. Fisher is called...
I did this as well.
Yeah, Fisher has called 376 MLS matches, 18 involving the LA Galaxy. Galaxy have won just 16.7% of those, lost 61.1%, and drawn 22.2%. In his last Galaxy match, he showed Chicharito 2 yellow cards and a 1-0 loss to Charlotte, after which Chris Klein was fired by the club. So I don't think they can fire Chris Klein again, though. I think that was
going to say, Drew Fisher did all that?
Edgar was throwing a little punch, a little jab there at the end. But no, I appreciated his research on that, because it's important to sort of watch. This is not going to be a friendly atmosphere for the LA Galaxy in Seattle. It's not going to be a friendly referee.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I look up. When I was looking up on Drew Fisher, he's only reffed 2 games in the center this season in MLS. And in those 2 games, he's given out 8 yellow cards. So that's 4 yellow cards per game. And he's given away 2 penalties. So that's 1 penalty per game. So I think that's something to keep an eye on as well, as he is someone who is not afraid to pull out the yellow card. So I think that's something that you're going to see him try to take control of the game. And he also, if he keeps on pace with his penalties, you may see a penalty in this game as well. He's not afraid to call a penalty. So I think that's something that we want to be aware of as well.
Really interesting article up on cornerthegalaxy.com. Catamount did one and was talking about how basically Austin didn't really do anything tactically that should have upset the LA Galaxy, that it was more psychological warfare, and the fact that they got into Ricky's head early and that they got into Martin's head, and that I think it was Rivas who was the referee, was basically letting it all go again. Again, we get into these same things where it's constant, where it's like, oh, just fouls are cool. Like, just go ahead and let fouls happen. And so you see that, and that the Galaxy are very good at not focusing on the soccer part of things sometimes, that they just get distracted and they don't play the soccer that they know how to play. Because Maya Yoshida said it, and I believe him, they feel like tactically they can make teams do whatever they want them to do. But if you don't execute, if you don't do the thing, there was an Austin fan who actually left a note on our last podcast and said, "Man, the Galaxy's defense is so bad, they have to get that." And I'm like, "It's not though." Then that's sort of the whole thing. If you watch that one game, yeah, it was not good.
There's 2 players who have said something, and that's where I'm starting to raise a little bit of the concern and the red flag that it's something you need to be an eye on. And it's what you just said, that they have moments where maybe they're not bad, but they have moments where they just lose focus. Ricky Puig said in a post game, if this team, stays more focused, I believe it was after the San Jose game, because they had a big lead and then they lost focus and they made that game closer than it needed to be. And then Yoshida in this last game said, to clean up the mistakes and that they could be more focused. So you see that word kind of pop up again. And so that's beginning to be a concern. If your leaders on the team are starting to call these things out, they're not, throwing anyone under the bus, but they're saying, this team is missing that focus and that staying locked in for a full 90 minutes. That is a little bit of a concern if they're seeing those things. But that is also is to say they know what the issue is. Just fix it. Just don't do that. Right? Isn't that what Greg Vanny should do if he's a coach?
Just fix it.
Do that.
Don't do that.
Go score and then don't make mistakes. Right? That fixes.
You got D ratings?
I do have D ratings.
Go for it.
So I also have our match announcers. It will be Jake Zivin and Taylor Twellman on Apple.
Jake
so we got the big
Taylor.
boys.
Yep.
Yeah, we got the big boys for this game.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Go ahead.
All right. So I was going to go do my Tim the Toolman here. So D ratings, always favorable to the home team. So the Seattle Sounders with a 48.1% chance to win, Galaxy with a 26.1% chance to win, and then a 25.8% chance for a draw. So not great for the LA Galaxy.
Wait a minute.
When you look at other percentages, that's not bad considering what they give away teams.
If you add this up, the Galaxy basically have a 52% chance of getting a point or better. Mm-hmm. I'm in. That sounds like those are actually pretty good. So not horrible on that. What does Vegas say, by the way?
Vegas say, so the money line you have right now, the best line is at plus 255 for the LA Galaxy. So that, again, if you feel like the Galaxy are going to walk away with a win without Ricky Puig, possibly with Dejan Joveljic, Vegas doesn't seem to agree with you there. Seattle's at minus 105. Okay. So again, pretty much even there. They're calling, that goes back to that coin flip to where they think the Galaxy can get a point out of that. But if you feel like a draw is happening, that's plus 290. So to me, that feels like if you're feeling dangerous, no one likes betting on a draw.
Right.
But this game feels like it has draw written all over it. With the over-under is set at over three goals. So plus 100 at over 3 goals, under 3 goals at minus 120. I feel like this is an under all day, especially when you think about the weather. You think about the last time these teams played each other. It was not a goal fest. Right. So it feels like this is going to be a low scoring, affair. And so you're probably not going to see, a goal fest in this one. And you're, depending on where they see you have, neither team is, really on fire right now, especially with Seattle missing, one of their key players. So I feel like it's going to be a low scoring game. Or does that lead us too much into the predictions, or ready for the predictions?
No, I'm ready for the predictions. I would like to say that there is a fairly significant chance of precipitation on Sunday. So we'll watch that around. I shouldn't say fairly. It's 30%, 40%, somewhere in there, but like it's for the whole day. It's one of those. It's rain. It's like a 75% chance, but only 30% through the different times. But right now they're showing 75% chance, about 46 on the low, 55 is the high. So a little chilly as it always is in Seattle with chances of rain. Prediction. Oh, I wanted to get to this one, Adam, and then I promise we're going to get to Aaron's super chat as well. Aaron, I did see it. Adam, $2 super chat. Who will start alongside Yoshida on Sunday? For me, it's going to be Caceres unless for some reason the procedure did not work. And then you might see Jalen Neal starting, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that either way. So for me, it's 50-50 either way on those guys. And then Adam also asked with $2 super chat, when do the Galaxy fly out to Seattle? And I believe they're flying out on Saturday. So they will train tomorrow. There's supposed to be a media call with Greg Vanny and a select player after training, so they will do that, and then I believe they leave on Saturday morning for the game that is on Sunday. Again, that game kicking off at 3:55 p.m. 3:45 p.m. is your TV start time on MLS Season Pass, and then of course free on FS1 again. So this game again, it's 3 weeks in a row on Fox, by the way. So
the whole slate is free on Apple TV.
Oh, this weekend. Oh, everything's
so it's
free
one
again?
of those. Every game is free.
And there was a drop in price for Apple TV as well. They actually said that for the remainder of the season. Did I just cut off? Did you have that one? Okay, good.
No, that was good.
Yeah, I think it was $99 and now it's $59. So, and again, the season's a third of the way done, so you pay a third of the, you get a 33% discount.
So is
roughly?
It a discount?
Right.
Not really, but at the same time, good for you. But again, it just always makes me laugh. The people who are like, well, I can't watch the league now that it's behind a paywall, and it's like, hey, the games are free this weekend. Well, I'm not downloading the app. It's just, to me, I don't know why people get their craw and the yaw or whatever it is. I would be far too embarrassed to admit on Beyonce's internet that I'm that poor and I'm that dumb that I can't afford Apple and I can't figure out how to download the app. So those people always just make me laugh.
They're just yelling into the wind. That's all they are. Predictions guaranteed to be wrong, sir.
Again, I said I believe it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think without Ricky and without Joveljic, I feel like if Joveljic doesn't start, I think this is like a 1-0 loss. Mm-hmm. I think if he does start, I think we saw that he can be a difference maker, and I could see a 1-1. So I know that's not really a clean answer. I'm going to call it a 1-0 loss just because I don't picture him starting on turf. And so I feel like if it goes that direction, I don't feel good. I don't have good vibes going into this game.
I don't know what the Galaxy. I mean, listen, a road game, and I'm going to tell you more often than not, if you go up to Seattle, you should lose that game, right? I mean, Seattle's just that team. They're a professional team. Even though they're down on their luck, I expect that they're going to be a professional team. They're going to put in a good shift. And if the Galaxy don't play the way that we know the Galaxy can, then it's going to be a problem. I don't think the speed of passing issue slows the Galaxy down with Ricky Puig out. In fact, I think it might increase and it might be quicker because a lot of times Ricky does like to hold the ball in order to create, and that's fine too. You live and die with Ricky Puig, that's fine. What you're going to get from Gaston Brugman might be a little bit quicker. The interchange with Gaston, with Brugman and with Delgado and with Paintsel and Peck, and then whoever. I'm really feeling like the Galaxy aren't going to start Berry again, which means 100% they probably are, right?
Yeah, and something came to my mind as you were saying this. For those of us who are critical of Joveljic heading into, the Austin game, we wanted more out of him, but then when you saw him off the field,
right,
you saw how much he was missed and how much he's not a liability. And so I think this is going to be a good test. We're going to get some answers about Ricky as well. Those of us, I'm a believer in Ricky. I think he brings a lot to the table. No one has the audacity that he has to make those through balls and to make those passes. So even if he doesn't hit all of them and he does turn over the ball, I think the risk reward, you're much better off with him on the field because he's going to deliver those dimes and make those passes work. So I think he's better off on the field. But I think something that you're going to see, and we're going to see that put to the test, if he's not on the field and he's not holding the ball for too long, you have the reverse effect? Are they going to play better without Ricky on the field when there's less pressure? I always think about Portugal when Ronaldo's not on the field. They look like a completely different team because they're not catering to try to put the ball at his feet to every single play to make him score. And so Portugal without Ronaldo, ironically, looks better than when they have their quote unquote best player on the team. So can the Galaxy have this effect when they don't have their best player on the team? Maybe everyone else just plays in this different way where they don't feel like they need to cater to Ricky, and maybe you get a better result out of it. I could see that happening.
I want to be very clear. I think the Galaxy are capable of winning this game, and I think they are against a not great Seattle team right now. Having said that, I think they lose 2-1.
There it is.
But I mean, ultimately, if the Galaxy won this game 3-1, or 2-1, or 1-0, I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
even a little.
I wouldn't say people can dunk on us because we're way off.
No.
The talent is there. Yeah, the pieces are there to make something work.
All right, very good. Let's see. We got a couple super chats that I want to get to sort of round out this show. Aaron, by the way, says, irregardless of everything, good one, Aaron, would it be dumb if I asked for a peek behind the COG scenes? Tell us about the equipment and software you use for the pod. Yeah, I can share some of that. So it's really in two sections for me. The video part of this is done using a program called Wirecast. Wirecast is really more specifically for, or at least used widely in like church productions and stuff like that. So that's sort of where we get this. It's basically like a slideshow. So whenever I click on the different windows that we have set up, I have different cameras and different windows, and then I put different overlays over there, and then you add a spicy little transition to it. But it's more or less like PowerPoint. You click on something and it shows up. So if I click on Eric, then Eric shows up in the one, right? If I want to,
there he is.
Yeah, there he is. If I want to come to me on the one, then I click that, and then of course you have me on the one, and then we have a side-by-side setup. So those are all like three different views that we can have in there. Sometimes with a guest, we'll put a picture and we'll stack them differently and do different things to sort of try to do that. So basically, that has to be set up for every show. All the graphics that you see on here, yes, they're screenshots, but they have to be inputted in. They have to be sized correctly. They have to put into the middle where you want them. You have to do all the stuff if you're going to layer different effects and that type of thing. So usually I start preparing an hour before the show to get all of the equipment. Behind me, basically some lights. Now this is the Hue lighting system for me. You have like yours different like twinkle lights back there, right?
Again, mine is much less professional. It's LED lights from Burlington Coat Factory that I put on the back of my shelf, my floating shelf back there. I have a speaker that has lights, so I just turn on the lights on the speaker, and there it goes, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. And of course, I have my beautiful JLab microphone. Yeah. Sent to me courtesy of the LA Galaxy.
That's right.
So again, that's my official podcasting microphone here, and then a few lights to make sure that I'm not in the dark here behind the scenes. So again, mine is much less technical. I just show up, fire on the microphone, and then Josh does all the hard work pushing all the buttons.
Yeah, I have to bring all of Eric's audio and video into the show every time. We use Skype to record, and anybody who says you're using Skype, blah, blah, that's what all the major news networks use, is Skype on those. Even though they say it's by Cisco or they say it's by somebody else, most of them, 99% of them, are using Skype. Just to let you know. So there's that. On mine, for the lights, I actually have a Hue light system. They're expensive, but they're fun. You can get these nice little like remote controls, and then if I hit like different lights, I can have different lighting things. This is like my normal lights in this room. You can have the rainbow lights that I have set up. I have a red version just every once in a while because my son likes the red version, and then we have the blue version that I use in the stuff. Now that all behind me actually runs, and I'll even slide out of the way a little bit. We never do this either. This is fun. You'll see I have some lights down on the floor that are sort of up lights, and then I hang this up. There's actually a bed back there, and this is my guest bedroom. So it's nothing super magical whenever we do this stuff. It's just fun. That's the video and audio and lighting part of it. Then for the audio part for the podcast, I actually record on the Zoom P8, which is a podcasting recorder, and it has different pads on it that I can put different music in, which is how I have 9 choices of music that we can do for intros, outros, and then all the other stuff that we have in here, the breaking news thing. So I have those 9.
Say the breaking news.
Yeah, so I have all those 9 sort of mapped out, and there's other ones you could put as well. So like if you wanted to do breaking news, you'd hit the breaking news. See, there we go. Right, and then if I was good, I would hit this, and then it would go breaking news. Right, so that's how that works. So that's sort of one of those fun things that we can do in different ones. But I have all this different music on, and I can set that up. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're interested in doing a podcast, go out and get the Zoom PodTrack P8. It's got 8 channels on it, but the best thing it has is it has this little Bluetooth connection that connects to your phone. So you could do music, or you could have another. You can do soundboards on your phone and have a bunch of different sounds that you could play if you're ready to do stuff like that. So you could just pipe that in. But the best part is, and tell me why there are professional podcasts out there that don't have this. Somebody calls my phone and I just bring it in. It's just anytime we have a guest that's on the phone, it's just I drop it into the thing. It sounds professional. You guys are like, oh, this sounds great. It's a like $30 add-on to this board. You get it, and then here we go. We have podcasts making millions of dollars, and they're holding their phones up to the microphone. Hey, can you guys hear me? The whole no, don't do that.
Hey, you're on right now.
Yeah, you're on. Hey, I'm just calling you from the podcast. So anyway,
fun times.
So anyway,
say you got really passionate there. You can tell this is.
I get so angry
your
about
jam
it.
right here.
I get so
Shout out
angry
to Aaron.
about it. But Aaron, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And then of course, Gary gave us a $2 super chat there at the end. Tell us a fun fact about trains. Great show. See, I like whenever they lean into my weirdness on stuff. No, I appreciate it. One of the fun facts. I'm actually doing an article for what we have. We have a club magazine that we put out. And so I'm doing an article on a railroad called the Santa Ana and Newport Railroad. And it was created back in the 1895 or something like that. And basically it runs where the 55 freeway ran up to the Santa Ana train station, and it ran all the way down to a place called McFadden Wharf, which is where the Newport Pier is. Newport Pier is McFadden Wharf. And it was created by a company called the Newport Wharf and Lumber Company. And so I've been doing a whole bunch of research on those, just sort of trying to figure out where all that goes and trying to look for logos of those things or anything like that, because it's fun to sort of read the train club that I'm at. The closest railroad would have been that railroad, right? So that would be the closest one. So it's one of those fun little things to look up. But that's it. That's all I got. See,
I like how we ended that. Did we get Alex Z's chat? Did I miss that one?
Where did
a little bit further up?
Okay, I will
look.
The
early
I
success.
think we missed that. Let's hit that $5 super chat. Do you think this is from Alex? Do you think the early success and excitement overshadowed this? That this is a rebuild season. Surely 2025 the squad will be different from this one too. I will say this: I don't like using rebuild because I feel that on a very regular basis MLS teams flip rosters. And you're going to have, if you saw that there's, up to 10 guys who could possibly be gone, look how many guys were gone at the beginning of this last season. So there's going to be, constant evolution on rosters. And I don't know how much you're going to see. The Galaxy have options on a lot of stuff. So you could have a very similar team to next year whenever you look at 2025. But regardless of that, for me, Eric, is the fact that these teams change every single year. You can have a core, but it's going to change. You're going to have new players. You can't afford to keep the players that you want to keep all the time, and so you have to let people go. Yeah,
that's why I understand the hesitancy to call things a rebuild year in MLS, but I think you look across the road right at Seattle. You look at the team that they're playing this weekend. Rui Diaz, Roldan, Morris, Frey, those are that's the core. Some small pieces move here and there, but those are the main pieces that are consistently there during these big runs when they win their MLS Cups and they make their playoff runs. You have your core there. So I think understanding, that this could be considered a rebuild season when you're bringing in a new core with Painstill, with Peck, Puig, who's the second, or third year, wherever you want to call him in it. You could say this is rebuild, but at the same time, when the pieces are there and they're talented, you can win in a rebuild year and then this can be the team that is constantly making runs for the next 3 or 4 years, even though, this is quote unquote a rebuild year. So I think to make this the worst answer ever, every year is a rebuild year and not a rebuild year at the same time, because you need some consistency to have success. But at the same time, you don't have the luxury of bringing the same exact roster season over season. And that's true across the globe. There is no team that is exactly the same from one year to the next, even when you have teams like a Man City who's constantly making championship runs. There's small tweaks here and there, even though you have the same core. So I think you can get excited about the new core, but just the way parity is in MLS, and you see how they've done as well, that's not to say that they can't still win, silverware this year. So I think that's the exciting part about it.
Adam, by the way, to close things out, $2 super chat. Is there a chance that McCarthy and the Galaxy can get a shutout? There always is. There always, especially if it starts raining again, right? Come on.
So here's my question.
Yes.
And here we go, extending the show an extra 20 minutes here. Kevin Baxter mentioned that Mikovic could possibly be getting more minutes, and that McCarthy was brought in maybe to steward him, and that it wasn't going to be that he was the foregone conclusion starter for 34 games, that it's supposed to be more of a competition. When speaking of McCarthy, when do they pull that trigger?
I don't know. I mean,
is it soon?
The bottom line for me is that you would have to. I mean, Mitrovic has to earn that spot, right? And so I think he's going to get a chance to play. But I don't know. I certainly wouldn't think it's going to be against Seattle. Like it doesn't. I know you're like, oh, can we get somebody else in there?
That's where I don't want to. Like it's an insane thing. It's the you're never happy enough. The grass is always greener type thing with McCarthy. While I'm happy with the shot stopping, some of the things I see, I'm not completely 100% sold on McCarthy. So I just want to see what are options there. And I realize it's a silly thing to do when you're sitting tied for first place in the West. Why would you make wholesale changes with your goalkeeper? But then you see how they're letting in goals. And I know it's not all on the goalkeeper. Right. And you just, maybe we can just take a look and start to see what our other options look like. And that just makes it a little bit interesting. But I know how that sounds. And I'm the big grump and the complainer for saying, hey, let's get rid of this guy. But I think
Sophie said the same thing.
Sophie
said the same thing, though. She goes, the downfall of the LA Galaxy is going to be the goalkeeper. I'm like, I don't think so. But that's her opinion. That's fine. I am generally not one who likes to switch around goalkeepers a whole bunch. So I'm more like, okay, to me, it's that Mitrovic has to earn it in training then. Be clearly better than McCarthy. That's it.
And to his credit, McCarthy hasn't done anything to make you say, oh, wow, that was, the distribution is one thing, but I think that he hasn't cost the team a goal to say he, slipped through his legs or he slipped and fell or, he should have had an easy save and he didn't. I think he's come up big more than not. And so for that, I'll back off and give him the credit and say that we're not ready to tinker yet, but it's just something that is in the back of my head.
The LA Galaxy playing Seattle Sounders coming up at 3:45 on Sunday, May 5th. Another weird sort of start time. 3:55 p.m. is your kickoff. Again, this game available for free on Apple TV, on FS1, so check that out. Again, 3:55 p.m. is your start time. The LA Galaxy 5-2-3 travel to take on the Seattle Sounders 2-5-3, a game in which the LA Galaxy has not beaten Seattle since 2016 in Seattle. So we are, dang, we're approaching almost a decade.
We're due.
Yeah, it's the roulette. It's roulette time, baby.
It's our favorite thing.
Red, 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 red. Black is coming. I can feel it. Here it is. You can see it on the board. It's about time. Things are historic win. Whenever they do win, it's a historic win. So another thing, Greg Vanney may not be able to win 3 games in a row, right? And maybe that's never going to happen.
I was going to say, did he sign his contract on sacred burial land or what happened? Why can't he do this? Yeah.
His introductory press conference was during January 6th. Let's just remember that happened while everything was going on. All right. But yeah, so we'll see if the Galaxy can get a win in Seattle. That'll be a fun one to sort of take take a look at. All right. Eric, anything else you got, or can we please leave? Can we please go?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
No more train talk. No more field trip talk. We're ready to go.
All right. Tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
All right,
I'm like,
as
what?
always,
Okay, yeah.
You can find me on everything at HammerEV9, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok for now. Well, you know where to find me, at HammerEV and the number 9.
If you're looking for me on Twitter X at Guesman at Galaxy Podcast, head over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Appreciate you following us over there. Anywhere your podcast can be found, YouTube, Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, all those fun places. Please head on over there. Check it out. Tell your friends about us. Let's keep growing this Corner of the Galaxy community. All right, for Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman, and you've been listening to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.